For those new to the channel, we take a data-driven approach to fantasy football. In this episode, we're having a quick look at options for replacing a Matty Rowell. So we've had quite a few questions come through from subscribers who are looking at Matthew Rowell as the sixth midfielder in their fantasy team this year. So let's quickly jump in and start searching for some information. So I'm just going to start typing in Matty Rowell just so we can have a look at his particulars. So grab his salary, so his current salary, what's his average points per match, position that he's currently in, and just salary bands so we can filter down because we're going to have to find some replacement players that are around about this price range. So we can see here that, across his career, yes, very short career, points per match is about 86. But he has had 2 games where he's been injured, which has affected his points per match. So if we just restrict this down to where points scored is greater than 50, we can have a look at those games where he's completing the match. And we can see here that's just an exceptional points per match. So let's have a look at, we're going to have to find some replacement players. So we're going to want to have a look at players around this price range of sort of that 500k, even a little bit higher if we've got some cash in the bank. We want to restrict it down to midfielders at this point. Potentially those that are playing in swing positions. So let's just grab our mid defenders, mid forwards and mids. Let's just put player name in here so we can have a look at it and just remove the filter on Matty Rowell. So, where I do like to start having a look at his points per match and, trying to get an idea of other players out there in this range that can get high scores. So we want to restrict this data down to this year and also the last 2 years. So we can look at performance over this period. So let's do that. And then let's have a look at the ratio of over 130. So this is the number of percentage of matches, I should say, where the players scored over 130 points. So let's have a look at what that looks like. And this is starting to get interesting. We see here there's an outlier of ratio of over 130 is Matty Rowell. And on the right-hand side, quite a high match average of Patrick Cripps. So I know we have talked about Patrick Cripps previously, and the concern with him is about his consistency. But if we are looking for that sixth midfielder, potentially this is something we need to look at. So let's restrict this down. We just want to have a look at, players ideally over 100, but this is a much cheaper price bracket. So let's grab over 95 points per match. So this is starting to get, again, Cripper here on the right-hand side. Who else we got? Zorko, interesting. Connellio. Who else can actually score highly? We've got Tim Taranto here. Can actually, he has 12% of his matches he's gone over 130, but his current average is quite low. Who else will be showing up here? An outlier, Connellio again. So we've got our points per match versus, those large games of over 130. But let's, realistically at this price bracket, let's have a look at matches, over that 100-point barrier. So we're now looking at points per match over that and versus the 100 ratio. So now we can see again, Cripper's just a standout. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got, Hugh McCluggage, Tim Taranto again, he's starting to show up, Rory Sloane. So this is getting quite interesting. But, if the other filter we do want to apply is, 50% of the time, we want, those matches over 100. So let's have a look at which players fulfill that brief. And restrict this down to, 8 players or so. Tim Taranto again, his current average is quite low, but, 50% of the time he is going to get us over 100. On the right-hand side is Patrick Cripps. So let's, continue to analyse this a little bit more. I'm interested in, again, looking at what is the current salary. So how much is it going to cost us to get these players? So let's just include salary in the search. Just change the visualization so we can see this salary. And we can see in this picture here that the size of the bubble is the salary. And this is where it sort of starts getting interesting. Of these players, the cheapest player in this bracket is Tim Taranto at 450k. So this is actually under the price of Matt Rowell as well. The other one that could be of interest under the price of Matty Rowell's 483 is Elliot Yeo. Where the other players that, yes, especially the points per match is much higher. Is Patrick Cripps at 523. What else we got here? Dane Zorko, similar price. And Stephen Connellio at 528. It's all very similar price. So if you do have it, 30k sitting in the bank, this might be an option in that you can upgrade to one of these three players. However, if you don't have that extra cash, you're probably looking at, what do you see here? Elliot Yeo, Tim Taranto. What's this option here? Luke Shuey as well, a slight increase, but again, slightly more than Matt Rowell. So this is quite interesting. So what I want to do just quickly, I just want to have a quick look at, where these players are in their career and where this could be of interest. We want to have a breakout year from some of these players. I want to filter our result set down to those players that we've selected. I want to have a look at the individual player names. So I'll just put this in. And we have a column here, number of the match. So this re-baselines all the matches from their first match through their first, second, third, fourth. So we can start looking at comparing player over player rather than looking at season and rounds. And how I want to look at that is I want to look at that at a moving 5-game average. And I just want to filter out exclude any matches where they're not playing. Well, let's have a look at what this is starting to look like. Make this a line chart. And let's just configure this so we can see the individual players. So this is a little bit busy, obviously having a look at all the players at the same time. So we're going to, have a look at them one by one. And the other thing I want to do is, these are the guys we pick year in, year out. They're metronome, they score well, they score highly. So let's bring in Fife and Lachie Neale. And I'll just make this selection and we can talk about what we're seeing here on screen. So we've got Lachie Neale and Nate Fife. Let's make sure we get it. There we go. So this is what they scored from their first match all the way through their career. So we can see that, especially at their start, this is where Lachie Neale did start his career quite poorly. But, over the last few years, both of them have been really consistent. This is where Lachie Neale starts getting this breakout of 5-game moving average, well above, both of them are well above this 120. And we can really see that movement starting to occur around the 100-game mark. So both, around about 100 game, they're sort of hovering around this 100. And this is where it starts to increase and really become these Supercoach bulls. So let's have a look. The players we're interested in, the ones we've selected. If we have a look at what Tim Taranto is looking like during his career. At the same time in his career, he is thereabouts in a scoring pattern with both Nat Fife and Lachie Neale. And it's really just the last probably couple of matches where this has dropped off. But we can see that, this is a really strong indicator that Tim Taranto might be ready for a breakout year and start getting his average above that 100 points per moving game average. And this is where we did see, as I said, the movement of our comparative players. We can also have a look at, what does Patrick Cripps look like? And again, consistently, he is thereabouts. What I'm concerned with Patrick Cripps is that you do see variation in his line chart, in that he gets those very big games of moving average where he gets on a run and it really starts moving up, but then does drop away. And we see this pattern quite often that he goes above the comparison line and below the comparison line. Let's have a look at the other ones of interest. Yeah, Tim Kelly. So again, played fewer games, but he's coming as a mature ager. And, you look at this, actually, throughout his first 60 games, his average better than Fife and Lachie Neale in this moving 5-game average, and currently as well is well above that. So is he going to be able to sustain that? That's what we've got to see. But maybe Tim Kelly here is really he's starting to stand out as an option that this could be a breakout year, as we can see it jump up over the last couple of games. Let's have a look. Stephen Connellio is another one. Very, very consistent. Is in amongst it. No reason why not. Again, probably in comparison to Cripper. You know, Cripper does move up and down a lot more, as we were talking about. You can see the line variation of the purple moving a lot more than Connellio. Connellio does look a lot more consistent. Did have a few bad games last year, but, you know, might be back on track. So, a few others. Luke Shuey. Let's have a look at what that looks like. So, Luke Shuey did go missing for a period of time. Is below, you know, where these two. He's a bit older in his career. So, is he going to have a breakout now? You know, probably unlikely. This is probably where he's at. Elliot Yeo. Let's have a look at Elliot Yeo. Had a lot of injuries. Bit of a risk there. Michael Walters. Again, you know, slightly lower than the other players. Is he going to get better? Or is he at his ceiling? Probably, you know, in my mind, sort of at that ceiling. So the ones were probably Dane Zorko's the other one. Let's have a look at Zorko. So again, played a lot of footy, very, very consistent. This is probably his ceiling. So as I said, we are trying to find that player that's going to go into our midfield position 6. In my mind, just looking at the data here, the ones we really want to consider is Tim Taranto, Tim Kelly, Connellio, and potentially Cripper, if that's where you're at. And again, this will depend on the money that's available. So that's it for this episode. We can see here there's a few options as potential replacement players for Matty Rowell. In my mind, you know, Tim Taranto is looking really attractive. Yes, points per match is a little bit lower than the others, but as we saw in that the trending, he's in that opportunity to have a breakout year and really move into that position 6. And at 450k, he's cheaper than Matty Rowell as well, and does give you that ability to invest that 100k in other players. So thanks for the time. To stay up to date, like this video, click subscribe and the bell notification. If you have any feedback or questions, leave it in the comments below. And we'll see you next time.